skies are wide, talking about a journey through the cosmic ride. Einstein and Thorne, they set the stage for a trip through time across the space age. Wormholes connect distant points in space, traversable paths to a far-off place. No black holes pull, no crushing weight, just a cosmic tunnel to a distant gate.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow. We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Exotic matter, negative energy's the key to stabilize the wormhole for you and me. Quantum vacuum squeezed so tight, creating conditions for this wondrous flight. Static fields and lasers in the lab they play, generating forces in a new kind of way. Gravitational squeezing, Casimir's force, negative zones we need to stay the course.
Talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Bowling 777 through a wormhole flow.
Thin shell formalism plates so fine, spherical geometry we realign. Energy conditions that we must defy. For a stable wormhole, let's give it a try. Coulomb forces balancing the plates, creating the throat, open the gates, from Earth to the stars in a single bound. A shortcut through space profound. Engineers and dreamers hold the key to future worlds and what we could be. With science in hand, we forge ahead through the cosmic paths that we now tread.
We're talking wormholes, stargates, negative energy, travel through the cosmos, it's our destiny. MH370, where did it go? Boeing 777 through a wormhole flow.
From the fields to the stars, we break the chains. Understanding the universe, we make the gains. Lil Hula Crunk shines, bringing truth to light. Through his music, we'll explore the night. With wormholes and stargates, our path is clear. Exploring the cosmos, our future's here.
Welcome, everybody, to the stream. Secret Science Wednesday in the house right now. Hope you guys are having a great evening. Thank you all for being here early. I appreciate it. Oh, boy, have I been busy, chat. I got out of work. I did a podcast that should be dropping with Jim Peters. Probably be the last podcast I do for several months. I'm tired of doing podcasts. I'm like Dana White up in this thing right now, just walking out of Howie Mandel's interview. I'm so sick of podcasts. But holy crap, more stuff just keeps popping up. So I finished that podcast. That it was about an hour and a half. I think it's going to be an awesome one. Jim Peters was great. Didn't even have time to do anything else. I immediately jumped onto a phone call, which is what I just made a Twitter post about, like right now, right before this. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then we're going to dig in. We're going to review this one scientific paper for tonight. And then we're going to call it after that. Might be a short stream. I don't know. Every time I say that, it ends up going for a while, which is about generating negative energy in a lab. And, well, I guess we're going to call it dark energy laser because it sounds awesome. Sounds like something out of Star Trek. And if you saw the thumbnail, then for this stream tonight, you saw, which is directly one of the images in this paper. So we are pushing the absolute limits of what we're allowed to talk about without getting randomly run over by a car, I feel like. But hey, you can't blame me. Private military contractor PMCs who are watching, it's not my fault. I didn't publish these papers. Get mad at Harold Pudoff and Eric Davis for putting them out on the internet. It's not my bad. I'm just reading them. Okay. So once again, thanks everybody who's jumped in here. I've got my martini. I wasn't even have a martini, but after the last call I just had that pushed the stream back, We need it, chat. We need it. Okay. Monday, Malaysian Airlines Monday is going to be literally and figuratively on fire. Malaysian Airlines Monday next week is going to be all about the fire event. I think I just filled in the gaps for everything we didn't know about the plane for MH370. I can't go on the record with who I talked about yet. We're going to talk about whether or not that's going to be possible. But I talked to somebody who is, let's say, highly credentialed, we'll say. And I'm going to give you guys some cliff notes here around it, okay? First of all, lithium-ion batteries in the late 2000s and the early 2010s were very susceptible to thermal runaway because there was a issue in the manufacturing process that wasn't widely known. And this manufacturing process is why many of these planes burnt up and why they ended up banning them in the cargo of passenger planes. So holy shit, these batteries were extremely susceptible to igniting from thermal runaway due to the manufacturing process. And if you remember, the batteries in the case of MH370 were put together that same day and put onto that plane. So they basically didn't go through. I will also say that the passengers on board this plane died from smoke. I'm almost 100% sure at this point. It was basically confirmed to me that the lithium ion battery toxic smoke is extremely dangerous. It could have even taken out the pilots as well. That's how dangerous the smoke is. It's almost certain at this point, and that we had speculated this. I now basically have corroboration from an expert that the toxic smoke on board this plane. In fact, there was another incident that if you're in our Discord, I'll post a link to it. I don't know why I didn't look more deep depth into UPS Flight 6, which was from Dubai to Cologne, Germany. Basically, this is exactly what happened on board this plane. And the pilot and co-pilot, they basically couldn't land the plane because the smoke prevented them from being able to see. They literally couldn't see. So why is this important? Because remember, the story is, why did they not land at Penang or Langkawi? I'm actually not sure right now if they were going for Penang or Langkawi. Why did they not land? It may have been that the pilots were literally incapacitated. Maybe only the crew was at the helm of the plane. And also the second thought is, if they couldn't see because of the smoke, then they couldn't safely land the plane. This is actually exactly what happened to UPS Airlines Flight 6. UPS Airlines Flight 6 flew over a runway because it wasn't safe for them to land because they couldn't see. And I think because also the landing gear maybe didn't deploy as well. You want some more? I mean, that's not even all, guys. Holy shit. We didn't even connect the facts. So is Chaotic Good in the chat right now? Shout out to Chaotic Good. Made a huge point. Who owned the batteries? Who owned the batteries? Motorola. Motorola owned the batteries. Who were the 20 engineers on board the plane? The person I talked to brought up the engineers. I was like, why are you bringing up the engineers? The engineers worked for Freescale Semiconductors. Freescale Semiconductors broke off from Motorola. Is it a coincidence there's 487 pounds of lithium-ion batteries and 20 engineers from Freescale Semiconductors all on the same plane? I was told a new fact today that I didn't even know. They said that Freescale may have been producing a microchip that can control the batteries remotely. What? I don't know if that's true or not, but if there's any connection between those engineers and those batteries, there is no doubt whatsoever those are the motive. It's way too coincidental. Also, the fact that the batteries were suppressed. They didn't mention the fact that the batteries were on board the plane until March 20th, 2014, 2 weeks after the plane disappeared. Why were they lying about the batteries? Because people that were in the know knew that the batteries were immediately going to be figured out as the cause of the plane. So they couldn't tell the truth. If they told the truth on March 8th that there was 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries on board this plane, the whole world would have known that it was a fire event immediately. All the witnesses corroborated it. There would have been no other narratives that you could have been able to form. They had to form a fake narrative of the plane going to the South Indian Ocean where we found nothing. They had to form that narrative before they told anybody about the batteries. Also, the other thing that was mentioned is that you notice that like nobody reported on the fire event or the batteries except for this case and a few random people 10 years ago. All the narratives out there are trying to vilify this pilot. They're all false narratives. Green Dot Aviation, Mentor Pilot, these people are all fucking morons. All these YouTube videos that you guys watch about what happened to this plane is all 100% bullshit. 100% bullshit. There is a 0% chance that this was a pilot suicide. There's no evidence whatsoever for it. It's a completely fabricated fake narrative from whole cloth. This plane had a fire event on it, 100%, no doubt whatsoever. All of the evidence lines up towards it. Why are they not talking about the fire event? Why, when Ross Coulthart asks Larry Vance on his Reality Check podcast, what do you think about the fire event? He just immediately dismisses it, doesn't even consider it. What kind of expert looks at 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries with 20 engineers from the company that broke off from them, with 20 to 21 witnesses that corroborate fire event, and doesn't even consider the possibility? The lithium-ion battery fire would not have melted through the fuselage. This is a false comment. But what it would have done is melt through the casing on the cargo bay and damaged the electronics, which would have damaged the communication system and made the plane go dark. There is no doubt whatsoever it was a fire event. The reason why they don't want to admit the fire event is because it rules out conclusively that the plane went to the South Indian Ocean. The plane is not lasting for 8 hours. Not possible. But it can last for 1 hour and 20 minutes, which is all that we need it to be able to last for. So it's funny because you hear people this is the false claim that Apollo here keeps making. These are people that don't know what they're talking about. They're lying to you because they don't want you to consider the fire event. We know it wouldn't have burnt through it because it literally happened to UPS Airlines Flight 6. There's another scenario where this exact thing literally happened. It didn't burn through the fuselage and burn the plane up immediately. They had plenty of time. They tried to land. They couldn't. The pilots were incapacitated, and the plane ended up crashing. So once again, it's facts versus fake narratives. Apollo here is trying to spread fake narratives because they don't want you to consider the fire event. Crazy. This is what really happened to the plane. It's wild. And they're pushing disinformation like crazy to try to make people ignore the fire event and what happened to MH370. Why? Why, guys? Because where's the plane? Where is the plane? If it was a crash, there needs to be a debris field. And so again, look, Apollo is completely full of shit, right? It's just basic fire science. So basically, Apollo doesn't know anything, right? Apollo is making shit up right now because he doesn't want you to consider the reality of what actually happened. Not only do we know this is what happened, we have a corroborating event that proves that what Apollo just said is a lie. And what's his experience? Worked on a fire truck. Oh, you worked on a fire truck, did you? Oh, well, that makes you an expert on lithium-ion batteries and fires in cargo bays. This is what's wrong with fucking morons like Apollo, right? This guy's a fucking retard. I'm sorry, but you're a retard, Apollo. You're part of the reason why we couldn't solve the case. Because people like you who make up fake shit, who don't know how anything works, pretend like you're an expert when you know nothing about it. I just got off the phone with a real expert, okay? A real expert, not a fake one like you. Crazy. I worked on a fire truck, guys, so I know how batteries will work in an airplane. This is like Redditor Syndrome 101, right? This is the problem. This is why we can't figure out anything in this world to be true or real, because you have fake people like Apollo come up with fake arguments that they know nothing about, and they present it as though it's some aura of authority when they know nothing. Absolutely crazy. Unbelievable, man. And they don't even consider the fact there's literally automatic fire suppression devices that will go off immediately when they sense the fire. So it's not like you're going to have this thing just cook through without being mitigated, you know? People, they don't even understand thermal runaway. Thermal runaway means you can put it out, but it's going to keep coming back up again. These batteries were vulnerable to that due to the manufacturing process in the early days. And they figured it out in recent years, which is why you don't hear about this happening as often. Crazy, right? Okay. Yeah, there's 5 or 6 bottles on board this thing. It should have been the moment we found the washed up fire suppression bottle in the Maldives, that should have been it. They're literally a Boeing 777 fire suppression bottle washes up in the Maldives 2 weeks later. It's got a serial number right on it. You can see the serial number. That should have been absolute proof it was a fire event. The reason why they had to fake the whole scenario is because if it's a fire event, there's no way the plane crashed in the South Indian Ocean. That would prove that the Inmarsat pings are fabricated. Prove it. Wild, man. Okay. So that was the spoiler for next Monday. We're going to dig all into the fire event on Monday. We're going all in on it. I'm not the one who invented the story of the fire event, but there's only a few people that even talked about it, including Dr. Edel, the person that we found the other day, Billy Vincent, who is a former director of the FAA. He was talking about it, and nobody else gave it any credit. So we're going to get at least a little bit of credit because that's 100% going to be proven to be what happened to this plane. All the other YouTubers and bullshit out there are all fake news. The definition of fake news, pushing fake narratives. They're all going to be proven wrong. We're going to be proven right. I'm going to be proven right. We don't even need the videos to prove that. That's the best part. But the best part is the videos show the smoke coming out of the back of the plane. And that's how we found out about the fire event. And then we reverse engineered it, figured out, oh yeah, 500 pounds of lithium-ion batteries. Crazy, chat. And this is why they have to desperately try to discredit the fire event, right? Because if the fire event is true, where's the plane? And why are there 2 videos showing smoke coming back out of the plane while a plane is trying to do an emergency landing in the ocean? Because the videos show the real story of the plane. It would have been impossible for anyone to fake that story back just weeks after the plane disappeared. So not only do you have to be a VFX artist, you have to know about the physics that we're about to talk about right now. You'd also have to know about a fire event that basically no one was talking about in order to make those videos. So now we know the videos must be authentic because the fire event is true and it's a story that wasn't even being promoted by the media. Crazy, right? Crazy, chat. Okay. Sorry I had to blast Apollo, but I just can't stand when people post fake shit and try to pretend like they're some kind of expert or whatever. Yeah, and you notice these people disappear right away. One thing, too, if these videos ever get proven real, you know how many accounts are all of a sudden going to get mysteriously deleted on Reddit and on Twitter? These people are going to be deleting their posts like crazy, man, because there is a huge disinformation campaign trying to keep these videos secret. So let's just look at the videos one more time, and then we're going to dig into this paper. I'm going to give you guys a quick sneak peek of the paper right now. So here's the quick sneak peek of the paper. We're going to be reviewing how to produce negative energy in the laboratory. What you're looking at right here is a literal negative energy laser. That's what you're looking at here, dark energy laser, however you want to think of it. So when I read through this paper again, you're also, if you guys have been following along with our review of the DIA papers, you're going to realize right away, this paper, this is from 2006, I believe. This paper is basically copy and pasted into one of those DIA papers on wormholes. In the wormhole paper, they talk about producing negative energy in the lab. It's from this paper. It's like parts of it are word for word. So we're going to be going through it again. And it's good because repetition really helps us to be able to understand what they're talking about here. And what we're going to find out as well here is that this basically is like it goes point by point in terms of like building up to how do you produce negative energy, how you use a laser to produce negative energy, and then how you engineer the laser to produce very high quantities of negative energy. You just heard me correctly there. How to produce negative energy, how to use lasers to produce negative energy, how to amplify the negative energy, and then get to this dark energy laser. Wild, right? Yeah, this is the Eric Davis Hal Puthoff paper, which I'm going to show you guys another spoiler before we even dig into it real quick. Acknowledgements. Let's read the acknowledgements on this paper, okay? We would like to thank the Institute for Advanced Studies at Austin for supporting this work. This work previously originated under Air Force Research Laboratory, contract F061199C0025. We also wish to extend our thanks and appreciation to Frank Meade, Edwards Air Force Base, members of the Air Staff, Air Force Headquarters, Pentagon, and Paul Murad, Department of Defense, for encouraging us to explore this topic. So the DoD and the Air Force are the ones who told them to research dark and producing negative energy in a lab in 2006, 20 years ago. Okay, man. If you guys can show me any other papers that are out there about negative energy being promoted by the Department of Defense and the Air Force, please send them my way. What? I read that at the end and I was like, okay. It just blows my mind that people don't listen to Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis, man. I would bet anything, any amount of money in the whole world that these guys know about anti-gravity. I mean, combined, they got papers on 0-point energy, wormholes, negative energy, warp drives. They've got it all. And they're writing papers together like crazy, too. Like, some people's heroes in science are like the Neil deGrasse Tysons and the Bill Nyes, the science guys. My heroes are these dudes. If I get to meet these guys, first of all, they might be upset that I'm exposing their knowledge to the world, but maybe not. Maybe they appreciate that I'm doing this. I don't know. But I'm going to geek out. I'm going to geek out like crazy. It's going to be like meeting a celebrity for me. Okay. Oh, shit. My martini is a little bit too full, chat. Okay, let's look at the videos one more time here because we need to understand what we're dealing with here. Especially if these videos are real, then I want to be showing people them all the time. Yeah, the Weinstein American Alchemy video with Hal Puthoff. Guys, if you guys can find any more interviews with Hal Puthoff like that one, please send them my way. I want to go through everything that Hal Puthoff has ever done publicly with a fine-tooth comb. I want to gauge his reactions and everything he says. Same with Eric Davis. Some people said that Eric Davis did some interviews. I want to watch those interviews. We might even watch them on stream. These guys are in the know. I can read between the lines and I can tell when people are lying or holding back. I'll be able to tell right away. Not to be rude, guys, too, but people send me a lot of stuff, a lot of videos of lights moving around the sky. I just don't care about any of that stuff. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Unless your video is like this high quality, then it doesn't advance us anywhere. I mean, it's cool. I'm glad you had that experience. It might even be real. But we need stuff that like we can see military footage with super high definition. Anything less than that doesn't advance the case. And that's why I don't really look at UFO stuff anymore. Because all it can do is discredit me. If I post something and it's a light flashing around on the sky, even the Trump thing was I probably shouldn't have posted, but I just thought it was interesting. So it's not personal at all if I don't post your stuff that you guys send me. But there you go. Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. No, I'm not. And just DeVos, just for example, like, I don't, maybe you sent me a good video from a captain on an airplane. I don't care. It doesn't matter. Even if it was a captain of an airplane that saw lights in the sky moving around, I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all. Zero interest. Zero. It literally needs to be high definition military footage for me to be interested. That's all there is to it. Even if it's corroborated, I believe that there is stuff floating around out there. I believe these orbs are out there floating around in the sky. I believe that. But this is the best footage that exists on the planet, period. Nothing's even remotely close to it. And nothing else can really push the investigation further. We already can see their capabilities, so we don't need to know more about it. I'm not trying to be rude, man. I appreciate you sending it. You can send it to me if you want, but that's the reason why I'm not going to ever post about it or anything like that. And you're not the only one. A lot of people send me stuff, truthfully. But I just want people to know so they don't wonder, like, hey, why is Ashton not promoting my thing that I sent him? Because, like, no offense, but nobody's stuff is high as quality as what we're looking at here. And we can literally figure out the science from this. From lights moving around in the sky, you can't figure anything out. From this, you can figure out exactly how it works. That's the crazy part. Hey, new people that just jumped in as well. Oh, I'm going to be taking shots at Jeremy Corbell like crazy. I'm going to be taking shots at this guy all the time. And I know he sees them too. Because these guys are gatekeeping like crazy. 100% gatekeepers, dude. Again, like, and it doesn't matter. It can be 4K. It can be whatever. But it's not this, right? You got a thermal video showing me heat signatures of some orbs? No. Doesn't matter. I've seen all the videos of the pilots with the lights moving around. I've seen them all. Unfortunately, they're cool if you've not seen this kind of stuff. But once you've seen this, then all those other footages sadly just don't have much gravitas to them. They don't add to the case, unfortunately. I mean, yes, there's stuff floating around. We know there is, right? The stuff that's important is like when Lou Elizondo writes a book, and in his book, he's like, oh, 3 orbs in a diamond formation is what he saw in classified military footage on a 23-minute video. That's significant, because how did whoever made this video theoretically know about some 23-minute classified video that wasn't even told about until 2024, right? It corroborates what we see here. Yeah, and nothing compares to these videos. That's the sad part, right? And that's why you guys don't see me like talking about UFO stuff anymore. Because once you've seen this, it's just like being spoiled, right? I mean, look at that. Holy shit. That's a wormhole. That's a negative entropy, negative energy, endothermic event that you just saw right there. Okay, so now real quick, one more thing I'm going to show is the lasers, the dark energy laser. Because even I thought it was kind of a silly name for the dark energy laser, but then you see this and you're like, wait, oh. So these orbs are perpetuating some negative energy in front of them, right? And I had speculated early on, before I even dug into this, that this would be some kind of laser device producing negative energy. Now, if you were just looking at the spoiler for this paper that we're about to review 5 minutes ago, you're going to see a laser beam shooting negative energy out. That's what I think is exactly what's in these orbs. But it also means that there's multiple different engineering effects happening. Is that you potentially have a laser that's producing negative energy forward, but you've also got some other type of cold fusion process happening within the orb. This is what makes this technology me really second guess whether or not we can even produce this. Because this is really advanced. This is even advanced for the engineers. Because you're like, okay, you have a cold fusion happening with a magnetic monopole, but then you've also got this laser propelled negative energy process happening, which it's not impossible. The fact that we can kind of figure it out and imagine how it works would imply that it could be our technology. But shit, and then they can also converge and produce a wormhole too. So you've got 3 different effects happening here. You've got a cold fusion energy effect, extracting energy from the universe or whatever. You've got a laser, dark energy laser, being able to produce this warp drive, and you can produce a wormhole by having 3 of these orbs converge. This is like this is like a Swiss Army knife of orb technology here. Pretty crazy. Yeah, so and this is a good point by DeHaven. Welcome, DeHaven. Even the best VFX, you can spot some mistake or lack of continuity. These videos are very real, way too much attention to detail that no one would ever think of. Exactly. And this is where like people that are actual VFX artists, not like the fake Redditors who pretend to be VFX artists and whatever, but like real VFX artists look at this and they go, yeah, this is way too difficult. Because people that have actually worked on this, that are real professionals, they know how much work the small details take to make. Like whenever you do something, the first 50% of it is the fastest, easiest part to do. To put something on the screen and put a plane on the screen, that's easy. But then to do all the little small details and get it all perfectly right, that ends up taking an exponentially larger amount of time, which is why there's no possible way anyone could have made these videos in the 72-day window. They're too perfect. They're too real. Too many small details. And bigger than that, nobody took credit for them. Who spent all this time and effort to produce this elaborate hoax? Or they're just real military videos of what happened to a plane that's still missing 10 years later. So let's go back to this. Yeah, the orbs are like 20 to 30 feet in diameter, which is also why it's probably just a field. It's a field. Now, it's still like a solid. If you were to look at it, you would consider it solid, but it's really plasma. Like a plasma field. Pretty interesting. Yeah, and then the real kicker is once you start to look at the science here that you realize there's something going on. Like why are there papers about experimental concepts for generating negative energy in the laboratory? Like what? What? Oh, it just turns out that negative energy in the laboratory is the exact thing we need to produce wormholes and warp drives. And we got papers on it from government scientists and engineers that are thanking the Air Force and the Department of Defense for encouraging their work. And this is just what they tell you about, right? You think these guys don't know more than what they're posting on public papers? No, this is just what they're allowed to publish. This is the plausible deniability. So that later on, when it turns out these videos are real, they can go, well, yeah, we told the world we had this technology. We had our scientists and engineers writing papers about it. Everything else was classified. It's wild, man. It's less difficult to comprehend if you consider the orbs are actually projected from a fixed point. I don't know what that means, but it sounds cool. Okay, sorry, I'm checking the comments before we get going. Yeah, where's Edward C. Lynn? Why is time for him to come out of hiding? I think when the time is right, he will come out of hiding. But man, this guy still has never reached out to me. You would imagine if he was not the guy, that he would be hitting me up, telling me to stop saying his name. Even if he is the guy, I kind of imagine that he would tell me to stop saying his name. Hey, Billy, no downside. I saw your art. I posted it in our Discord. So thank you. Appreciate that. I'll also post a quick link to the Discord. You guys can find the post that I made about the other case. Feel free to dig through that other case related to the other plane that burnt up. Because we have another corroborating event for a fire event on board a plane that happened in 2010, 4 years before this plane. Basically the same exact thing. And the pilots succumbed to the smoke. So I'm sure that MH370 had a fire on board and that's what happened to the passengers. Maybe the pilots succumbed to the smoke as well. Pretty crazy. How do we create negative energy with a laser? Well, we're about to find out, sir. We're about to find out. And yes, this is a dirty martini. Sorry, I'm going to have one more hit of this dirty martini here. What does it say? Who's to say they're not reverse engineering this technology? I am not going to rule that out. On the podcast I did, that's probably going to drop in the next few days, we talk a little bit about that. I think that maybe we were reverse engineering. We figured it out some decades ago. Hard to say. End of the day, I don't think it really matters. End of the day, we have the technology and it's ours now, right? Even if it came from somewhere else, even if it came from aliens or whatever, it's ours now. Okay, there's the invite to the Discord if you want to jump in. Let's do this. Okay. Implementation of faster than light interstellar travel via traversable. I mean, look, we're not even one sentence in, guys. Implementation of faster than light interstellar travel via traversable wormholes, warp drives, or other space-time modification schemes generally require the engineering of space-time into very specialized local geometries. The analysis of these via Einstein's general theory of relativity, field equations, plus resultant equations of state demonstrate that such geometries require the use of exotic matter in order to induce the requisite faster than light space-time modification. Exotic matter is generally defined by general relativity physics to be matter that possesses renormalized negative energy density. And this is a very misunderstood and misapplied term by the non-general relativity theory community. We clear this misconception up by defining what negative energy is, where it can be found in nature, and we review the experimental concepts that have been proposed to generate negative energy in the laboratory, right? So here we go. So what's this all about? Hey, Brandon, welcome to the stream. What is negative energy? So I'm going to give you guys a spoiler, and then we're going to read some corroborating stuff from this paper. We probably won't read every piece of this paper, but here's the main thing you need to know. If you read my post last night, guys, conventionally, physics, the way it's written, that public mainstream understands, they would think that negative energy or energy in space is somewhere down here, like zero. The reality is energy in space is somewhere up here, an equilibrium state of energy all the time. So now we have the ability where we can reduce the energy state in a local region of space-time, right? That we have this energy state. We can increase it, we can reduce it, we can polarize the vacuum, so to speak. Create eddy currents, like in the Matrix. If you look at the Matrix, you see the numbers running across the wall. The wall over here is separated by these currents. You can make a polarized region of space-time. And if we can polarize that region of space-time, we can create a negative energy pressure differential, which now causes there to be a force, a suction effect, or a repulsive effect. This is essentially what negative energy really is. So we don't want to be thinking of negative energy as this exotic purple substance that we have to figure out. It's a matter of reshaping the geometry of space-time. And we know that from the Casimir effect. Okay. So the first paragraph is really interesting because this paragraph talks about the idea that Carl Sagan, who wrote Contact, actually had Morrison Thorne as an academic exercise basically show that the principle of a traversable wormhole is possible within the theory of Einstein's general relativity. So this is crazy because people mention the idea of contact. The movie Contact, Carl Sagan's idea of the book was to bring real physics into the story. So people ask, why does contact look just like we would expect from a wormhole, a warp drive, and all this other stuff? It's because Carl Sagan really had real physicists that he basically said, hey, go show that we can make a wormhole consistent with Einstein's theory of general relativity. Yeah, I might need to rewatch Contact. I might watch it tonight, chat. Because when I read this, I was like, holy shit, really? I mean, just literally read what it says right here in the beginning. Like, okay, well, basically the reason why our art, our movies, our TV shows show real science is because it's leaked into the real science, is that we had real scientists working on this. And then people like Carl Sagan literally wrote a book that became a movie, right? Wild. Okay. This little exercise ended up being one of the greatest cottage industries in general relativity research, the study of traversable wormholes and time machines. Now, one of the other things that's not mentioned in here is that we went from this idea that a wormhole is going to rip you to pieces because we think of it as like a black hole, where a black hole has this event horizon, where if you go past it, you get sucked in, you can't escape. Wormholes don't have event horizons. Wormholes are humanly traversable. Now, what's crazy is that this paper is talking about traversable wormholes, not just wormholes, but traversable wormholes. Right here, traversable wormholes. And this is from 2006. I didn't think that traversable wormhole science was public until 2020. That's when I started finding the papers on humanly traversable wormholes. So this goes to show you the disconnect. Eric Davis has known about traversable wormholes since 2006. The public hasn't known about humanly traversable wormholes until 2020. We have a 14-year difference. Wormholes are hyperspace tunnels through space-time connecting two remote regions together within our universe or two different universes. They even connect different dimensions at different times. Why? Because space and time is one and the same. So we are going to throw out special relativity. Special relativity is about to get shattered. General relativity is going to hold up. But special relativity, the idea that like you can't defy the laws of time, we're throwing that bad boy out. Peace. General relativity, you're cool. Special relativity, you got to go. Space travelers would enter one side of the tunnel and exit on the other side, passing through the throat along the way. The travelers would move at under the speed of light, c, through the wormhole and therefore not violate special relativity. But the external observer would view the travelers as having traveled multi-light-year distances through space at faster than light speed. A Stargate was shown to be a very simple special class of traversable wormhole solutions to Einstein's theory of general relativity field equations in 1995 and by Eric Davis himself in 2004. So this gives us a time frame too. This is just 20 to 30 years ago is what we're talking about here. So why is special relativity break down? Because for the observer, it looks like you traveled faster than the speed of light, which would break special relativity. But for the person traveling, you're actually moving slower than the speed of light, which could be just a walking speed or the speed of an airplane. And now this is where stuff starts to break down, but it's consistent with general relativity because everything has their own frame of reference. So I can be moving at sublight speed, but people who are looking at me, it looks like I'm moving at faster than light speed. This is the loophole in Einstein's theory of relativity. Pretty cool, right? This development was later followed by Miguel Alcubierre. So you guys need to know Alcubierre's name, right? This is where Star Trek basically, warp travel. 1994, the warp drive space-time metric, which was another solution to Einstein's general relativity field equations. His metric was derived by cosmological inflation that would allow arbitrarily short travel times between two distant points in space. The behavior of the warp drive metric provides the simultaneous expansion of space behind the aircraft and a contraction of space in front of the aircraft. The warp drive spacecraft would appear to be surfing along a wave of space-time geometry. Now, guys, we're looking at real warp drive. The warp drive spacecraft would appear to be surfing on a wave of space-time geometry. Guys, what does that remind you of? How about this bad boy right here? That's what these orbs are doing right here. They're surfing on a wave of space-time geometry right there. That's warp drive. That's real warp drive. That's why these videos prove warp. Do you think some hoaxer made these videos showing real warp drive? In 2014, they were like, what? They were just a big fan of Eric Davis. And they were like, hey, I'm going to make a real warp drive video of a plane disappearing that has been lost. And they knew we would never find the plane 10 years later because if we found the plane crash anywhere, this whole thing would have fallen apart. Like, no, these videos are just real. Obviously, we're hiding this technology. Maybe it's aliens. I don't know. I don't think so. But, I'll keep my mind open. That's warp drive. Now, it doesn't quite look like Miguel Alcubierre had speculated. When I look at this, it looks more like they're expanding space in front of them. Why? Because it's getting colder in front of them. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just create a negative energy pressure differential in front of them. And maybe you don't need to expand and contract it behind you. Maybe you don't have to do both of those. I'm not sure. But maybe they are doing that. We can't really fully tell based on this video, although we get a lot of information. We can clearly tell they're surfing along space-time. How they're pulling it off, maybe it's not going to be exactly like we thought in 1994. Not sure. Why isn't there any lensing effect? There is. There is a lensing effect. We're going to get to that part too. There is a lensing effect in these videos. So I'll go ahead and show that real quick for you guys as well. Because actually part of this paper talks about it. You're skipping ahead to the end. But there's a part in here where they talks about the lensing effect. There actually is a real lensing effect in the video. It's actually supported by the science as well. Right here. Oh, I missed it by one frame. Damn it. That right there. This frame right here. You're literally seeing the lensing effect right here. Why are the orbs flat right here? Because you're seeing the lensing effect, just like if you were to look at gravitational lensing. But this is a negative energy lensing effect that we're seeing right here. An endothermic event is about to occur, and we're seeing the lensing effect. Now, what this paper is going to tell you, I'm going to just say it because we skipped ahead, is that the negative energy wormhole produces an umbra. What's an umbra? A dark area where light does not enter. An umbra. Now, what is an umbra? This is an umbra right here. You're looking at it. And what happens in the umbra? The light hits the event horizon or hits the wormhole, so to speak, and it scatters. And it can even amplify. Why do we see the illumination in the satellite video? Because you're seeing the light bounce off the wormhole throat and amplify and shoot back outwards. So even a small amount of light is being amplified. It can be just from the stars and the moon. Just the very small elements of light are hitting the wormhole, amplifying outwards. Why would the hoaxer make the satellite video have the light? Why would there be an illumination event? Hell, even people that understand this science don't even know that there'd be an illumination. But Salvatore Paez knew. Salvatore Paez knew because when I asked him, he got quiet about it. He didn't want to say. Look at this right here. Why is this illuminating the entire environment? It's illuminating the environment because the light is hitting the wormhole, the throat of the wormhole being produced here, and it's reflecting outward all around it. Yeah, Yahtzee is right, chat. Somebody made some videos that are perfectly consistent with real wormholes from real scientific paper that we're reading right now. Whew. If they did, I want to meet them. If these videos are somehow real or fake, I want to meet the person who faked these because they know more about science and VFX and engineering of Boeing 777s than most people in the whole world will ever know in their entire lives. I think, sadly, the passengers were all dead now. I don't even know if anybody was alive when that video was taken. I think that that's the answer for where the passengers, they succumbed to the smoke. The smoke took out the passengers. Sad it is to say, I want to go ahead and express my condolences and my remorse. And I want to send an apology on behalf of the United States government because we know what happened to this plane and we've been lying about it to all the family members. The reason why the family members were never returned, the reason why the family members moved on is because the passengers didn't survive. Passengers did not survive. It's possible maybe one or two did, but majority of the passengers most likely did not survive. And it wasn't even the wormhole that took them out is the sad part. It was the fire that took them out. Sucks, huh? Okay. Okay. The implementation of faster than light interstellar travel via wormholes, warp drives, other modifications in space-time generally require the engineering of space-time into very specialized local geometries. The analysis of these via Einstein general relativity field equations plus the resultant equations demonstrate that such require. Okay, this is basically the same thing we already read about exotic matter. Exotic matter is generally defined by GTR physics to be a matter that possesses renormalized negative energy density. Now, if negative energy density reminds you of something, it should remind you of the Casimir effect. Remember, we keep coming back to the Casimir effect. Why? Because the Casimir effect is experimental absolute proof of negative energy densities. That's why the plates come together. Now, we're not going to make two plates that come together. We're not going to make a free energy device out of two plates. We're going to use that concept, and we're going to manipulate that concept and abuse the effect. That's what we want. This is where people that go, oh, well, yes, it does prove that you can extract energy from the environment, but it takes work to move the plates back apart. Great. Well, we're not going to use two plates. We're going to do it some other way. Sometimes negative stress tension equals positive outward pressure, aka gravitational repulsion or anti-gravity. Are you starting to realize why I'm all in on free energy, guys? Because there's a direct connection that's you can't break these two things apart. If we can produce anti-gravity, we can produce free energy. They are one and the same, exact same science. Because the outward pressure is an anti-gravitational effect. Now, anti-gravity is not the right word. We really just want to, in my opinion, it's engineering the space-time metric itself, gravitational manipulation. Great question. Can we make negative energy density sharks with negative energy lasers on their heads? Honestly, one day, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make sharks with freaking laser beams on their head. That's going to have negative energy lasers. Then when they hit you, you get blasted against the wall. Honestly, making it happen. That sounds terrifying to me. Negative energy lasers from negative energy sharks. Great. Okay. Okay. The general relativistic definition of exotic or negative energy. What negative energy or the mass energy. So remember, keep in mind here, they're talking about mass energy. Why are they talking about mass energy? Because energy equals mass. So if we don't have to produce negative mass, we can just produce negative energy. Mass equals energy. It's a matter of having a dense energy in a dense area. What is your energy density? Right? Because E equals mc squared. Matter is energy. Okay, so it must have a negative energy density. The energy is negative in the sense that the configuration of mass energy we must deploy to generate and thread a traversable wormhole throat or warp drive bubble must have an energy density that is less than or equal to its stress, which is written that the energy density less than or equal to stress. In many cases, the equations of the state are also known to possess an energy density that is algebraically negative. So remember, think of your energy density of the 0 point energy fields all around us. We just need a negative algebraic density. It is on the basis of this condition that we call this material property exotic. So we're only calling it exotic because algebraically it's negative. But if you think about the space-time as an equilibrium, then negative just means less than the equilibrium. Negative. Positive energy, negative energy. Positive energy would be an explosion. Negative energy would be an endothermic event, right? We will return to the meaning of negative energy within another context in a later section. This condition for ordinary non-exotic forms of matter that we are all familiar with in nature is that the stress is greater than the energy, or the, sorry, what was P equals again? The energy density is greater than the stress. This condition represents one version of what we generally call the weak force, the null, average, dominant, or strong energy, standard energy conditions, which allegedly forbid negative mass energy densities between material objects to occur in nature. Hawking and Ellis formulated these energy conditions in order to establish a series of mathematical hypotheses governing the behavior of collapsed matter singularities in their study of cosmological black holes. So basically, it sounds like, if I'm reading between the lines, Hawking and Ellis screwed us over, because when they were studying black holes and gravitational collapse, they decided that you couldn't have a negative mass energy density. Now, what did they miss? They missed the fact that space-time itself has a latent equilibrium of energy, and that we can manipulate that higher or lower. So what this also means is that if we can make black holes that has a positive energy, a positive mass condition, then perhaps we can create a white hole that shoots matter outwards instead of being repulsed inwards. And this is probably why, when I was talking to Salvatore Pais and said, what do you think about white holes? He said, yeah, I think white holes could exist because there's symmetry in nature. So potentially for every black hole, maybe there's a white hole out there as well. However, there are general theorems of differential geometry that guarantee there must be a violation of one, some, or all of the energy conditions for all faster than light spacetimes. With respect to creating faster than light spacetimes, negative energy has the unfortunate reputation of alarming physicists. This is unfounded, since all the energy condition hypotheses have been experimentally tested in the laboratory and experimentally shown to be false 25 years before their formulation. For example, the effects of negative energy have been produced in the laboratory via the Casimir effect and squeeze states of light. Further investigation into this technical issue showed that the violations of the energy conditions are widespread for all forms of both classical and quantum matter, such as planets, stars, black holes, neutron stars, people, space dust clouds, etc. In addition, Visser in 1995 showed that all geometric spacetime geometries violate all of the energy conditions. So the condition that energy density greater than stress and or energy density greater than 0 must be obeyed by all forms of mass energy in nature is a spurious issue. Violating the energy conditions commits no offense against nature. So what did he just say there? Basically, Hawking is a bitch. Boom. Put it on the board. We can create negative energy. We have violated all of the energy conditions, and we've shown, experimentally proven, that we can produce negative energy. It's not even an arguable state. When Hawking made these claims that we could only produce positive mass energy, he was wrong. So this is the thing, and this is why he says, he adds this little quib in here too. There's this reputation of alarming physicists. What you're going to realize from the CNN brain physicists out there is that they can't argue against the science that we're posting right here. This science here is real science, but it upsets them because they've been taught to believe that we cannot have negative energy, that it's some mysterious exotic substance, because they don't understand that the ether exists an equilibrium state of energy. So I appreciate Stephen Hawking. I think he was a genius, but he got this one wrong, unfortunately. Okay. Another sip of the martini here. Yeah, that's Stephen Hawking, by the way. Yeah, and this is the disinformation they push too, right? They claim it's pseudoscience, or that what they'll say, you'll hear this a lot. They'll say it's not publicly accepted, right? Which is basically just consensus. The worst arguments are scientific arguments by consensus. Well, most physicists don't accept that. I don't give a shit what people accept. Science doesn't care what people accept. Science is either true or it's not. It's experimentally proven or it's not. Science is the study of observable reality. The study of observable reality says the Casimir effect is real. Therefore, the energy conditions are able to be violated, and negative energy is 100% real and undeniable. Okay. A coherent circuit. Yeah, we're going to get to some of that coherent circuit stuff here as well for variable genius. So let's see, how far are we in? We're already an hour in. Okay. Okay, so here are some of the conditions that violate the mass energy conditions that prove that negative energy is real. Radial, electric, or magnetic fields. They're borderline exotic if their tension were infinitesimally larger for a given energy density. Squeezed vacuum states of the electromagnetic field and other squeezed quantum fields. Gravitationally squeezed vacuum electromagnetic 0-point energy. So if you squeeze the 0-point energy gravitationally in an area, then you can produce negative energy that way. The Casimir effect shows it as well in flat or curved spacetimes, and then other quantum field states and effects. So he basically lists these off, and then he's going to show how we can produce these types of effects here in a minute as well. Since the laws of quantum field theory place no strong restrictions on negative energy densities or energies and fluxes, then it might be possible to produce gross macroscopic effects such as warp drive, traversable wormholes, violation of the second law of thermodynamics, and time machines. The above examples are representative forms of mass energy that provide negative or possess negative energy density and or are borderline exotic. We'll explore most of these in what follows. Okay, so what are the definitions of these? Squeezed quantum states. Substantial theoretical and experimental work has shown that many quantum states, the limits to measurement precision imposed by the quantum vacuum 0-point fluctuations can be breached by decreasing the noise in one observable at the expense of increasing the noise in the conjugate observable. So what is this saying? This is Thomas Bearden here, guys. This is extracting your energy in one location and moving it to another. This is also the basis for 0-point for free energy as well. You know, I can extract energy from this half and I can apply the energy over here. And what happens when you do that? You're going to have a differential in terms of the pressure. And any differential in the pressure is going to allow for there to be a relativistic force that's going to be acting upon it. In this case, a negative energy force. So what they're saying is at the same time, the variations in the first observable, the place where you're extracting the energy, are reduced below the 0-point fluctuations, such that the energy becomes negative. So what did I just say for you guys? If our equilibrium is here and we extract energy, then our equilibrium lowers. So it's moving below the 0-point fluctuations. That creates the negative energy pressure differential. Once you move it below the equilibrium, now you're creating negative pressure, negative energy. And then that has to go somewhere. So if I reduce from this side, it's got to go up on this side. So if you can reduce down here, now you're creating energy somewhere else. If we're creating energy somewhere else, we can extract that energy. Free energy. Poof. Yeah, and I think what you're saying here is something like the Casimir effect can also explain quantum tunneling. Probably, yep. That's going to be a little bit outside the wheelhouse of this particular experiment. So squeezing is thus the control of quantum fluctuations and the corresponding uncertainties, whereby one can squeeze the variance of one physically important observable quantity, provided the variance conjugate is stretched, increasing the other. So we squeeze over here and it stretches out over here. There's another way of looking at it. So you think about space-time, squeeze this side spreads out. Cool, huh? You'll notice there's always symmetry in nature. One can, in principle, exploit quantum squeezing to extract energy from one place in the ordinary vacuum at the expense of accumulating excess energy elsewhere. Morrison Thorne, 1988. So 1988, this was already figured out. This is right here is your experimental scientific proof of free energy. Or let's not say experimental, but your scientific theorem proof of free energy. If you can extract quantum energy from one location using quantum squeezing, then that energy must go somewhere else. Squeeze the amplitude like squeezing a balloon. Exactly. Take your balloon, squeeze one side, what happens? Other side inflates. So it's really that simple, guys. The science is not that complicated. That's what's crazy about this. Everyone can understand the concepts. Squeezed light. This is going to be important. We're going to dig into lasers in a minute. The squeezed state of the electromagnetic field is one of the numerous examples where quantum fields can have a negative energy density. Such state becomes a physical reality in the laboratory as a result of the nonlinear optics technique of squeezing, i.e., moving some of the quantum fluctuations of laser light out of the cosine part of the beam and into the sine part. This pertains to a particular exotic field mode of coherent light from an ideal laser, where the electric field amplitude is a constant. The W is the angular frequency, and the Z is the beam of propagation of direction. T is the time, and A and B are the field quadrature operators corresponding to the quantized harmonic oscillator. A lot of this has to do with frequency and vibration. So your oscillations. Now, I don't think it's a coincidence that the orbs are moving around the plane in a perfect sine wave either. I think that's how they're somehow able to produce the negative energy, at least what's required for the wormhole. So a lot of this starts to get pretty deep in the math, which already actually goes above my head quite a bit. A and B are the observables we are interested in, and they must obey the communication relation A, comma B equals I weird H divided by 2, or H is the Planck's constant, or Planck's reduced constant. The oscillator vacuum is defined in the usual way. Okay, let's see. Okay, one can squeeze the variance of one observable provided the variance in the conjugate observable is stretched. So basically they're saying you can squeeze light in the same way where we can squeeze the 0-point energy fields. Squeezing becomes important when A and B are limited, or change in A and change in B are limited by the minimized uncertainty product. The observable that gets squeezed will have its fluctuations reduced below the vacuum 0-point energy field. Now, this is the important part, because as we just saw, so as you see, these ideas are building on one another. So if we can reduce our energy level before the 0-point fluctuations, we can create negative energy. Now, if we take light, we can squeeze that light so that its fluctuations get reduced below the vacuum 0-point energy field. What's that going to do? It's going to create a negative energy beam. So that's what they're saying basically here, is that we can do the same process of squeezing the vacuum, and we can do that to squeezing light. And then what's that going to leave us with? That's going to leave us with a laser that's able to produce negative energy. So it basically says, instead of taking an area and squeezing the area to produce your negative energy state, we're going to do it to a laser. And now our laser is going to become like a point source of producing negative energy. We're getting close to being able to produce a negative energy laser here, guys. Okay. Okay, then it digs into the math. I think I'm going to skip some of the math. If one squeezes the vacuum, i.e., if one puts the vacuum rather than laser light into its input port of the squeezing device, then one gets the output of an electromagnetic field with weaker fluctuations and thus less energy density than the vacuum at locations where cosine blah, blah, blah is about 1 and sine blah, blah, blah is less than 1, but with greater fluctuations and thus greater energy density than the vacuum at the locations where the opposite is true, where the cosine is less than 1 and the sine is about equal to 1. Since the vacuum is defined as having a vanishing energy density, any region with less energy density than the vacuum actually has negative expectation for the energy density. So again, this part right here is what I just said. Because they claim that the energy of the vacuum is basically zero, anything that's below the equilibrium is considered to have negative energy density. That's what negative energy really is. So negative energy is not some weird exotic substance. It's a matter of reducing your energy state below the 0-point fluctuations. Therefore, a squeezed vacuum state consists of traveling electromagnetic wave that oscillates back and forth between negative energy and positive energy density, but has a positive averaged energy density. I don't really understand the last part of this, but I do understand the idea that you can, your electromagnetic wave can travel between positive and negative energy densities. Imagine this, and I'm at the equilibrium. My wave is propagating above and below it. Part of it would be above the energy density and part of it would be below it. Now we just need to capture the part that's below it. And now we have a negative energy laser. Okay, gravitationally squeezed electromagnetic 0-point fluctuations. A natural source of energy comes from the effect that gravitational fields in space have upon the surrounding vacuum. For example, the gravitational field of Earth produces a zone of negative energy around it by dragging some of the virtual particles downward. This concept was initially developed in the 1970s as a byproduct of the studies on quantum field theory and curved space. However, Hochberg and Kepler derived an important application of this concept to the problem by creating and stabilizing traversable wormholes, and their work was corrected and extended by Davis, that's Eric Davis, in 1999. They proved that one can utilize the negative vacuum energy densities, which arise from the distortion of the electromagnetic 0-point fluctuations due to the interaction with a prescribed gravitational background, for providing a violation of the energy conditions. So he's basically saying that we can definitely produce negative energy and that we can see it. And the part that I think is interesting about this is that this is very similar to the Michelson-Morley experiment that I was showing you guys. I'm going to pull it up here real quick, by Martin Gruznik. This one right here. So this is the Michelson-Morley experiment that claimed to disprove the ether.
The interference fringes during this rotation.
You don't see, the interference pattern doesn't move if you spin it around. But if you flip it vertically, which is consistent with gravity, then what happens? It starts to move. So if you flip it on its side, now it's spinning vertically. Now you see the interference pattern shift. Why is the laser being impacted by this? Because the Earth is impacting the ether around us, and it's pulling. There's a pressure differential that's pulling the laser down, pulling the laser light down. Pretty cool. So I think that what he's talking about here with the gravitationally squeezed electromagnetic 0-point fluctuations of the Earth, basically creating this negative energy pressure right around the Earth, is consistent with what we see right here. I think that you're going to find that these are all going to unify together. That's just my opinion, though. Let's go back to this. So they showed that a squeezed quantum states of quantum optics provide a natural form of matter having a negative energy density. So this is now expanding upon it, basically proving what he explained about squeezing light. The analysis via quantum optics shows that gravitation itself provides the mechanism for generating the squeezed vacuum states needed to support a stable, traversable wormhole. The production of negative energy densities via a squeezed vacuum is necessary. I think he meant necessity. Necessary and unavoidable consequence of the interaction or coupling between ordinary matter and gravity. So right away here, he's saying that there must be negative energy that occurs from the interaction between matter and gravity. And this defines what is meant by gravitationally squeezed vacuum states. The magnitude of the gravitational squeezing of the vacuum can be estimated from the quantum optics squeezing condition for the given traversable momentum. Okay, then there's some math talking about the Schwarzschild radius. The Schwarzschild radius is critical radius according to general relativity, at which a spherically symmetrical body becomes a black hole and at which light is unable to escape. So now we're combining the idea of a black hole with a wormhole. They are definitely similar and related. Okay, let's keep going. The general result of gravitational squeezing effect is that gravitational field strength increases. The negative energy zone surrounding the mass also increases in strength. So the more gravity you have, you're going to have also a corresponding negative energy zone around the mass. Okay, we're going to skip some of the math here. I didn't really understand a lot of this when I dug into it, but something about the mountain being significant. Okay, another option is a moving mirror. So negative energy can be created by a single moving reflecting surface. A mirror moving with increased acceleration generates a flux of negative energy that emanates from the surface and flows out into space ahead of the mirror. However, this effect is known to be exceedingly small and is not the most effective way to generate negative energy for our purposes, so we're not going to consider it further. I just think this is weird. So negative energy can be generated just from a moving mirror? This kind of reminds me of Gunter Nimitz, who created this prism that can potentially allow for faster than light communication capabilities. Pretty weird. I don't really know what else to think about that. Maybe there's something else there. Yeah, maybe there was that Khrushchev mirror as well. Something about seeing through time or something. Pretty bizarre. I feel it's important that they added this in here because they only put one small paragraph about it. So I'm not sure what the deal with that is. Okay. Let me take a look at where we're at here. Oh, okay, we're getting there. Okay, now we're to the spice. So now we understand the concepts. So what are the experiments to generate negative energy? 5 proposed experiments. What you're going to realize here too is these build upon one another. So I thought that these were going to be 5 completely different experiments, but you're going to find that they kind of expand on top of one another. The Casimir effect is by far the easiest well-known way to generate negative energy. Within the Casimir effect, there's a certain amount of energy. Negative energy manifests itself by producing a force of attraction between the cavity walls. This has been measured in the labs with a very high level of precision. The cavity dimensions must be made exceedingly small to generate a significant amount of negative energy. So the problem here is that it needs to be very, very close together, like extremely small in order to pull that off. So in order to use the Casimir effect to generate a spherically symmetric traversable wormhole, we would need to create a cavity that is perfectly conducting, spherically concentric, thin plates with a plate separation equal to this math right here. So basically, what they mean here in terms of this, one thing I noticed right away is perfectly conducting. Guys, what does perfectly conducting mean? Perfectly conducting is superconductor. He doesn't use the word superconductor right there, but that's literally what that means right there. Perfectly conducting. Spherically concentric. Spherically concentric means a sphere inside of a sphere. Sphere inside of a sphere. That reminds me of the Malcolm Bendel's plasma thing, right? A sphere inside of a sphere, but you need to have the be very thin between your sphere in order to generate the negative energy that you need. So I think that the idea here works, but I think that instead of using actual plates, we can create fields that do it. Why do I think that? Because we're looking at it in 2 videos. Why do I think that we don't need to make actual plates? Well, because I'm watching a plane disappear out of space-time right here, and it sure looks like they don't have any plates between these orbs. They're using fields. And they're able to do what seems like the Casimir effect to create a negative energy zone around the plane. But instead of using actual concentric rings of plates, they're creating a virtual ring and a field between 3 orbs, right? So this is why I say the Casimir effect shows that we can create negative energy, but we're not going to use plates. But the science is right here, and he explains that, he does the math here to show that your plates are going to have to be super, super thin in order to generate enough force to be able to get into the energy densities that you need. Interestingly enough, The equation that he used a 1 kilometer radius. Now, we don't need 1 kilometer for our radius. Like the plane is like what, 300 feet long or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. I don't really know. So we don't need a kilometer, but we do need maybe like a set half of that size potentially, or a third of that size, 1,000 meters. No, like a tenth of this. So there may be a configuration where you can pull this off, because if you look at this here, the energy density here is 10 to the 36. Salvatore Pais, in order to break the Schwinger limit, I think it was about 10 to the 33. So it's actually pretty similar. So to produce a 1 kilometer size cavity, you need an energy density of 10 to the 36. So if it's smaller than that, presumably you need less energy. And then if you want to make it way, way, way bigger, then the energy density changes here. Pretty interesting. Okay. Radial, electric, or magnetic fields. It is beyond the scope of this paper to include all the technical configurations by one can generate radial or electromagnetic fields. Suffice it to say, ultra-high intensity tabletop lasers have been able to generate extreme electric and magnetic field strengths in the lab. Yahtzee. By the way, this paper is from 2006, so we're 18 years later than this paper. We've developed attosecond lasers as well. Ultra high intensity lasers use the chirped pulse amplification CPA technique to boost the total output beam power. All laser systems simply repackage energy as coherent package of optical power, but CPA lasers repackage the laser pulse itself during the amplification process. In typical high-powered short pulse laser systems, it is the peak intensity, not the energy or the fluence, which causes pulse distortion or laser damage. However, CPA lasers dissect a laser pulse according to its frequency components and reorder it into a time-stretched, lower peak intensity pulse of the same energy. This benign pulse can then be amplified safely to a high energy, and only after reconstituted as a very short pulse of enormous peak power, a pulse which could never itself have passed safely through the laser system. Made more traceable this way, the pulse can be amplified to substantial energies without encountering intensity-related problems. So right here, he's talking about amplification of energy, which reminds me of Salvatore Pais and what we might need to be able to do to create a huge amount of negative energy. If we can amplify a positive energy laser, why can we not amplify a negative energy laser? The extreme output beam fields conditions have been achieved by ultra high density lasers include so power intensities 10 to the 26 watts per centimeter squared. Seems pretty big. These electric fields, I don't really have anything to reference to like compare them to, but I imagine these are very, very large amounts. Plasma temperatures 10 to the 10 Kelvin. That seems really high. Now, this is important because you might be able to use a laser to produce cold fusion. I think that they're using a laser to create the negative energy, but they're also using a laser to create the magnetic monopole to produce cold fusion in those orbs as well. And then here's a diagram of how it works. Notice that a lot of these experiments, they all use mirrors like this right here to either split the beam, either beam splitters or mirrors. Even the Mudgett-Morley experiment uses it. What you'll find is a lot of the experiments look very similar. Almost every single one will have a laser that shoots into a mirror or a beam splitter. And this is theoretically how they're able to create the ultra high density laser. This is beyond my current engineering understanding, but you can see here are the power amplifiers. So you do all this splitting, this bouncing, and then you kind of manipulate the wavelengths or whatever they're doing here. And then you're amplifying the energy so that your output is a very high energy, ultra short pulse. Now, somebody just won the Nobel Prize for an attosecond laser, which is like 10 to the minus 18. So that means there's 18 zeros for how short that laser beam is. That's probably the secret to this. We find that from the above data that ultra high intensity lasers can generate an electric field of density 10 to the 16 to 10 to the 28 joules per meter cubed. Remember, the Schwinger limit is like 10 to the 33. So this is already really, really high electromagnetic field. These energy densities are about the right order of magnitude to explore a kilometer to astronomical sized wormholes. We don't even need a wormhole that big. So right here, they're saying that this line right here basically says we can use the lasers that we knew from 2006 to produce enough negative energy to create a kilometer wide wormhole. What? We don't even need that much energy. Not for what we're doing with an airplane. So right here, this is the money shot. This basically says we can absolutely use lasers to produce enough negative energy to create a wormhole right there. But it would be difficult to engineer on Earth. Not impossible, just difficult. However, these energy densities are well above what would be required to explore the generation of micro wormholes. If you just want to explore a micro wormhole in a lab, you don't even need an energy density that high. This is the part right here that says basically CERN and the Large Hadron Collider. Yeah, somebody just mentioned it. We're thinking the same thing, Jay. CERN is basically full of shit because CERN definitely knows that this is real. CERN can produce this, and they're not, or they're not telling us that they are. That's the scarier part. They probably are producing it, and they are suppressing this science because if this got out that we can actually produce negative energy at high quantities enough to make a wormhole, all the science comes out. So this is the part where you start to learn about the suppressed science, right? Ashton, the defense industry hates you at this point. They probably literally do because I'm exposing all their shit to the public, just all of it. They should have just gave me that Scarlett Johansson clone, man. Or they should have put one of those weird masks on people that make people look like somebody else and made it look like it was Scarlett Johansson. They could have done that too. Or they could have just paid me the $10 million and this all would have gone away. This all could have gone away. Ashton wouldn't be revealing your dark energy lasers, but here we are. Here we are instead. But yeah, CERN is full of shit, 100%. The Large Hadron Collider is also full of shit, for sure. Like, definitely. Don't let them honeypot you. Guys, they probably know my whole psychological profile at this point. I'm sure the defense contractors probably know more about me than I know about me at this point. Okay. Negative energy from squeezed light. Okay, so we just talked about how to use lasers to produce literally super high quantities of energy. And now we're going to squeeze our laser to turn that high quantity of energy into negative energy. Negative energy can be generated by an array of ultra high intensity femtosecond lasers. Well, look at that. Femtosecond lasers. Well, it turns out now we have attosecond lasers. Why do you guys think that somebody just won the Nobel Prize in physics last year for an attosecond laser? Well, it looks like there's a direct correlation between the intensity of a laser and how quick you can make that laser pulse. The faster, the better, right? So now you can see why the person won their Nobel Prize for their attosecond laser. This is from 2006. Probably the military already knew about attosecond lasers a decade ago. Okay, because they can use an ultra-fast rotating mirror system. In this scheme, a laser beam is passed through an optical cavity resonator made of lithium niobate, LiNBO3, crystal that is shaped like a cylinder with rounded silver ends to reflect light. So you create a cylinder, you have silver ends on it, you got your cylinder here, you can reflect the light. The resonator will act to produce a secondary lower frequency beam of light, which the pattern of photons is rearranged into pairs. This is the quantum optical squeezing of light effect that we described previously. Therefore, squeezed light beam emerging from the resonator will contain pulses of negative energy and pulses of positive energy in accordance with the quantum squeezing model. So basically, we're going to resonate our light and we're going to take half the wavelength, the positive energy half, send it this way, the negative energy half, we're going to send it this way. In this example, both the positive and negative energy pulses are of 10 to the minus 15 second duration, which is, I think, pentosecond, right? Or femtosecond. So these are 10 to the minus 15. Now we have 10 to the minus 18. That's attosecond. I think attosecond is 10 to the minus 18. Let me just double check. Pentosecond. Oh, no. Oh, femtosecond. Sorry, not pento. Femtosecond. Yeah, femtosecond is 10 to the minus 15. That's why this is 10 to the minus 15 down here. So attosecond laser is, wait, I don't need laser. Attosecond. 10 to the minus 18. So we're getting better and better, guys. So you can imagine there's a linear, maybe even exponential increase in power based on how fast you can make your laser pulses as well. So the fact that those laser pulses are increasing says that we're probably getting better and better at doing this. We could arrange a set of rapidly rotating meters to separate the positive and negative energy pulses from one another. The laser beam is to strike each mirror surface at a very shallow angle, while the rotation ensures that the negative energy pulses are reflected at a slightly different angle from the positive energy. Basically, we're separating the two. A small spatial separation. Actually, I'm going to skip the rest of this because you can tell. So basically, here's our diagram. So now we can understand we can amplify the energy. Then we can split the energy based on its wave functions and say that, okay, we're going to send the negative energy this way, send the positive energy this way. And so what do we get? We get an accumulation of concentrated negative energy. I'm probably pushing the limit here, by the way, guys, in terms of the private military contractors. Pretty sure they're not too pleased with what I'm doing here. You're not supposed to technically explain how to engineer it, but hey, this is a publicly available paper. Anyone can read this. I'm just reading it out loud on my stream. That's all. So negative energy pulses generated from quantum optical squeezing. So this is pretty cool, right? Can we take it further? What do you guys think? I think we can take it further. We still haven't got to the graphic that's the thumbnail of this video yet. Okay, another way to squeeze light would be to manufacture extremely reliable laser pulses containing precisely 1, 2, 3, etc. photons apiece and combine them together to create squeeze states to order. So basically they're saying maybe we can just engineer it where we don't even have to separate it out, where we can just produce our negative energy to order. Davies points out that superimposing many such states could theoretically produce bursts of intense negative energy. I like that. Photonic crystal research has already demonstrated the feasibility of using photonic crystal waveguides. We might need to look into waveguides, guys. Mixing together the classical and quantum properties of optical materials to engineer light sources that produce beams containing exactly 1, 2, or 3 photons. For example, researchers at Melbourne University use a microwave oven to fuse a tiny diamond onto an optical fiber, which can be used to create a photon beam of light. The combining of different beams containing different finite integer numbers of photons is already state-of-the-art practice via numerous optical beam combining methods that can be readily expanded into our application. So basically, we're just going to take this ability to produce 1 or 2 or 3 photons and squeeze it, and now we're just going to produce super powerful beams of negative energy. Instead of bothering with separating it all out and taking half the wavelengths, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so here's some math. I don't like the math, too much for me. Okay, and then, okay. Equation 2 shows that the energy density falls below 0 once every cycle when the condition of cosine HR is greater than sine HR. It turns out that this is always true for every non-zero value of R. So the energy density becomes negative at some point during the cycle for a general squeezed vacuum state. On another note, when a quantum state is close to the squeezed vacuum state, there will almost always be some negative energy densities present. So what does this lead us to? If we send just 1, 2, or 3 photons and we squeeze it down, you can see your cone right here squeezing them together. What do we get? Ultra high bursts of negative energy. Welcome, chat. Yahtzee. That is your thumbnail right there. So we just went from explaining how negative energy is a thing that's out there to how we can use lasers to produce negative energy, and then how we can split the negative energy, and then how we can literally just engineer the lasers at the photonic level, 1 to 2 to 3 photons at once, to produce ultra high bursts of negative energy. Crazy. You'll have to download this. The PDF is available. I showed it at the top. I'll come back to it at the top. You guys just Google it and you can download the image. By the way, I download every single one of these papers now just in case they were ever to disappear from the internet. That's why at the top it looks like it's at my own hard drive location. So when I saw this and I started to piece this together after reading this paper a couple days ago, I went, okay, well, this is what we're talking about on Wednesday. Dun, dun, dun. So basically, we can just create a laser. So now we know what we're looking at now in this video, right? We know what the MH370 videos are showing now. We're literally looking at this type of laser that you just saw right there in an orb being shot forward. Because when we see those, imagine those gold lines of negative energy. That's what we see here with the black in front of the orbs. It's just a laser being shot forward of negative energy, producing this negative energy pressure differential. The negative energy is expanding in space and creating this pressure zone that the orb is just floating through. I don't even think you need to have something on the backside. This is the part where I think the warp drive of Alcubierre, we don't need to expand and contract space. We just produce the negative energy in front of us, and our orb will naturally get sucked towards it. The same way where we looked at the negative energy mass, your positive energy mass is going to follow your negative energy, right? When the positive hits the negative, it speeds up towards it. That's why our orb is following through the negative energy zone. To me, I think we solved it. I mean, I'm probably missing something, but because I'm a layman here trying to figure this out, but that seems like the logical answer to me. You know, just imagine this yellow line right here is the black lines that we see in the MH370 videos. And imagine there's an orb right here, and the orb is just following these lines. Simple. You're just pulling it into the void of negative energy. You're just falling into it. Crazy this is all out there, huh? We're almost to the end here, chat. And now this is going to talk about the Umbra as well. So we got to do this last part, and then we're going to call it a night after this. So observing negative energy in the lab. Negative energy should be observable in lab experiments. The presence of naturally occurring negative energy regions in space is predicted to produce a unique signature corresponding to lensing. So who was asking about lensing earlier? Chromatically and intensity effects in micro and macro lensing effects on galactic, extragalactic cosmological scales. It has been shown that these effects provide a very specific signature that allows for the discrimination between ordinary positive mass energy and negative mass energy lenses via the spectral analysis of astronomical lensing effects. So theoretically, there should be a way to tell the difference between a positive and negative lensing effect. We might be looking at a negative lensing effect in the MH370 videos, which would prove the videos to be real. We would just have to know, well, how do we tell the difference? They say you can tell by spectral analysis, but I don't know what exactly that means. Theoretical modeling of negative energy lensing effects has led to an intense astrological search for naturally occurring traversable wormholes in the universe. So basically, they're saying they were looking for the traversable wormholes. Computer model simulations and comparisons of the results with recent satellite observations of gamma ray bursts has shown that putative negative energy, i.e. traversable wormhole lensing effects, very closely resemble the features of gamma ray bursts. This is wild. So gamma ray bursts theoretically look like negative energy zones. So we want to look for something that looks like a gamma ray burst. Also, this means that we might actually be able to tell what, some of these gamma ray bursts that we're seeing might actually be wormholes that are being produced. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah, we're going to need some relaxing music. I'm going to definitely chill after this stream, and I'm going to hope that I didn't push it too far tonight. I have it under pretty good authority that we're being monitored pretty heavily here. So hopefully I'm not pushing it too far. Once again, though, this is just publicly available info. All I did was look up Hal Puthoff's papers, and I went, wait, he's got a paper on producing negative energy in the lab? What the fuck? But now you can see, too, why the DIRDs were classified, right? Like, why were the Defense Intelligence reference documents classified? Because we're freaking producing negative energy lasers, man. This is why they're classified. Look at this shit. Visser also points out that current observational data suggests that large amounts of naturally occurring exotic mass energy must have existed sometime between the epoch of the galaxy formation and the present in order to quantitatively account for the age of the oldest stars in the galactic halo. So there's some observation that we've made of stars that says we're missing something out there. There must be some negative mass energy, aka negative energy, that's out there. Yeah, I guess theoretically we only get trouble when we start to try to build one of these in our garage, but I don't care about building it in my garage. I just want people to know that it's possible, and then I want you guys to go build it in your garages. You guys go get I want you guys to get the knock on the door now. I've had enough. When okay, so for the person that wanted to know about the lensing effect, here you guys go. We're now going to be able to explain why there's a flash in the satellite video and the MH370 videos. Hi, 3-letter agencies. Imagine being the guy that has to watch all my streams that like just to monitor me all the time. That guy must be exhausted. When the background light strikes negative, background light rays strike a negative energy lensing region. They are swept out of the central region, thus creating an umbra region of 0 intensity. What does this mean? It means there's going to be a dark area where you cannot see into it. So it will be opaque. It won't be transparent. At the edges of the umbra, the rays accumulate and create a rainbow-like caustic with enhanced light intensity. The lensing of the negative mass energy region is not analogous to a diverging lens because in certain circumstances, it can produce more light enhancement than does the lensing of equivalent of a positive mass energy region. Real background sources and lensing effects can have a non-uniform brightness distributions on their surfaces and a dependency of their emission with the observed frequency. So what does this mean right here? This means you're going to see the light hit the event horizon or hit the edge of the wormhole, and it's going to bounce out, but it's not going to be a perfect sphere. It won't be a perfect sphere because of what did he say right here? It's non-uniform. So non-uniform means our Taylor set off blast wave. So we're seeing the light hit our wormhole, create a flash outbound. This is why the whole environment's being illuminated, even though it's the middle of the night in this video, because even small amounts of light hitting it is going to amplify and reflect back outwards. This is why also you can't see through the wormhole either. So some people have argued you should be able to see through the wormhole. I think I was talking to Brad, Sonic Gravity. Unfortunately, Brad, you're wrong. You're not going to be able to see through the wormhole to see the other side because the light that's going to hit it is going to get bounced back outwards through your wormhole. That's why it's a dark, cold event. In fact, when we look at the thermal video, I think that when we're looking at the thermal video, there's the reason why we see this edge between the two layers is potentially because we're seeing the buildup of the photons along the edge of the wormhole itself, like right here. This video is this is the video they should never have gotten to the public. This one was too much information. So there's our lensing effect happening right there. We can see the lensing effect happen. And then right there, why is there this extra layer? Because the photons are hitting the wormhole and they're bouncing off. That's what's happening here. There's this ring of negative energy as well, which is just fucking awesome. Right? It's like the photons are hitting this and they're bouncing off of it and reflecting back outwards. There might even be like a pressure of like negative energy being shot out here. I'm not 100% sure. But I think that's the answer of why you see this like multi-layer. So the wormhole's opening up and then closing again. Opens up, closes within a fraction of a second. So actually, too, I didn't even notice this, but it's getting larger here. So the wormhole opens up and then it shrinks back down again. And then you see this flash. And it happens so quickly because time is almost irrelevant, right? You expect it to happen almost instantaneously, which is exactly what occurs. Okay. Tom the Baptist has noticed that veritable genius. Like, guys, one thing I noticed too is when people say a little bit too much in the chat, I know there's somebody who's relatively in the know. Like one of the abilities I have is I can tell when somebody knows some shit. Like when I was listening to Dave Rossi talking with Salvador Pais, I was like, I want to talk to that guy. That guy knows some shit. I can tell right away. That happens pretty frequently in my chat where I can tell that there's certain people in the chat who know more than they would appear to know for sure. Okay. So we talked about lame, blah, blah, blah. The modeling of such effects is quite like, so basically it says here it's hard to model it because we don't know what it would look like in real life, though. Now we are seeing it. Suffice to say, future work is necessary to scale down the predicted lensing parameters and categorize their effects for lab experiments with a negative energy. So this is also important because this explains why they're recording it. Hey, look at Roy. Roy was on it as well, honestly. What was the thing that I keep thinking about with respect to Roy? There's this huge time element related to this and this phase transition as well, where you could imagine you could use this technology to like literally be like the Matrix. Oh, the thing I think about with Roy is his analogy of Quicksilver in the X-Men movies, where with Quicksilver, he's moving at super speed and everything else looks like it's moving in slow-mo. So like this Advil bottle is like flying at me. Imagine this is like a missile or a bullet. And if I'm inside of my bubble and I can manipulate time and space time, I can actually just slow this down relative to me. And so I can just have it shoot right past me. Conventional rockets, missiles, bullets are basically useless against somebody that can manipulate space time. You can even have a situation where you can create a repulsive effect. So this thing flies right at me, shoots away. Right? Pretty cool, huh? Present ultra-high speed optics in optical cavities, lasers, photonic crystals, technology, sensitive nano sensor technology, and other techniques are very likely capable of detecting the very small magnitude lensing effects expected in lab experiments. Right here, they're saying we can create detectors that can detect a wormhole. Probably high-frequency gravitational wave detectors, I presume. Wouldn't surprise me if other countries figured this out as well. Ashton rocks, I levitate. I'm glad that Roy D. Herbert's here. We're almost done, Roy. We're at the end here. So this here too shows the umbra, right? So this image is great. Just imagine this image is a circle though. Because the situation here is that we don't have a situation, we're not looking at a two-dimensional shape in our videos. In our videos, we have a three-dimensional object. So light's hitting it from all directions. And so light's going to scatter back out in all directions. Versus here, this diagram isn't quite right, but it's close enough that we can see the umbra effect, right? Here's your negative mass. The light hits it and it reflects outwards. So this is our flash of light with these arrows. Pretty neat, huh? Pretty cool. So now we understand why there's a flash. We understand how you can produce negative energy, and we're definitely looking at it. We're definitely looking at it, chat. Okay, last two paragraphs or three paragraphs. I think I'm going to skip this part. So this part, see, I don't know what quantum inequalities is. I've never heard of this, but this part basically is just shitting on people that don't think this is possible. This is certain people out there, I guess, don't think it's possible, and they're going, sorry, it's been proven, nothing you can do about it. You know, go to hell, whatever it is. So I think we're going to skip that part. Yeah, because apparently these quantum inequalities people say that you can't do all this, but the Casimir effect shows that they're wrong. That's why the Casimir effect constantly gets brought up, because the Casimir effect proves the conventional CNN brain physicists to be absolutely wrong. Absolutely. There's no denying it. Casimir effect proves it. We have to look at physics in another way in order for that to be true. Yeah. You guys are giving me way too much credit, but I love you guys. I love you, Roy. And yeah, Variable Genius says Ashton is sitting on one of the most interesting stories ever. The most impressive part is how much physics he has untangled in such a short amount of time. Yeah, the part about that is that like I feel like everything in my life has led me to this moment. I've always loved physics, loved it. And there's this other weird aspect. Like people have told me there's a spiritual aspect that's going on related to this that I don't really appreciate. Maybe there is. Because the truth is, like, I've loved physics, but I always felt like there was something missing with it. Like this thing that's just nagged me forever. Like there was something missing. And when I discovered these videos and started digging into the science, I went, holy shit, that's the missing piece. That's the linchpin that I've been missing the whole time. Energy is not down here. It's here. There's an equilibrium of it. That's all you really have to understand. Once you realize the equilibrium of energy is not nothing, there's a tangible amount of equilibrium energy, and that's what gravity is coming from. It's the ether interacting with the space-time and mass all around us. And that's probably why I'm able to untangle it so quickly, because this stuff has been out there. All of it has been. And now I'm at the point where I know enough where it's like I can see, like I see a paper and I'm like, oh, I need to read that one. Like there's something there. And it's the same 5 or 6 scientists over and over and over again. The crazy part is this paper is from 2006. Oops, I just removed it. The paper we're looking at here is from 2006. This is not new either. So this has been suppressed and easily suppressed for a very long time. Very long time. Sadly, the flight MH17 flight, I don't think is nearly as mysterious as this. We found a giant debris field. So, guys, I'm not the conspiracy theorist that a lot of people want me to be. A lot of people think that just because I've uncovered what's probably the biggest conspiracy of all time, that I must think that everything's a conspiracy. I actually don't. In fact, I'm very skeptical normally. Like I would make a better debunker than the debunkers are, because I know the conspiracies are possible, but not everything is a conspiracy. And so it's like I'm going to show my one of my new favorite things here.
This is Atlantic City all over again.
You've got 20.
Hit me.
Peter, don't.
Hit me.
21.
Hit me.
Peter.
Hit me.
That's 30.
Hit me.
That right there is the good analysis of the people that are too into conspiracy theories. Not everything has to be conspiracy. Not every conspiracy needs another layer to it. Although the MH370 thing has like 3 layers of conspiracies going on. You've got a missing airplane, then you've got this fire event that they've been covering up, and then you've got literally like warping space-time technology that we're hiding from the world. So it's pretty damn dark. But just keep in mind, guys, don't hit on 19. Not everything's a conspiracy. Just follow the evidence. Follow the evidence, and you will not be led astray. So let's go to the conclusions here. We reviewed general relativistic definition of negative energy and identified forms of negative energy that are known to occur in nature or have been predicted to occur. We examined each of these and characterized their physics and their magnitude of negative energy they are capable of producing. Next, we reviewed first-order experimental concepts that we believe will achieve the objective of generating negative energy in a lab. It was demonstrated that radioelectric or magnetic fields generated by high-intensity lasers are capable of achieving energy densities large enough to observe laboratory-scale space-time effects. There's your key, right? Very high-intensity lasers can produce electromagnetic fields powerful enough that we can see space-time effects. It was also shown that negative energy densities negative energy densities generated by squeezed quantum state processes are capable of generating negative energy. So we can actually, at the quantum level, laser level, squeeze it to produce negative energy. However, future work is needed to establish the experimental parameters required to specifically separate out the negative energy pulses from the positive energy pulses in optical cavity systems at ultra-high speed. The astronomical observation of naturally occurring negative energy lensing effects has been predicted. The predicted lensing effects have been characterized and quantified, but this also needs to be done for laboratory scale experiments, and this will be the subject of future work. Well, I would love to read the future work. Last, the quantum inequalities conjecture is predicted to impose serious constraints on the amount of negative energy that can be generated and utilized. However, this has been disproved to some extent for a variety of space-time and quantum field cases. There's also experimental evidence that contradicts the main postulates and assumptions of the quantum inequalities conjecture. Bingo, guys. Also, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. No chance that these guys, Eric Davis and Hal Puthoff, don't know way more than what they're saying. A lot of times when they say stuff like this needs to be investigated further, or we need to prove this in a lab, I just go, these guys already know it's possible. You don't write a paper like that unless you know beyond any shadow of a doubt that it's possible. They're just being very coy with their wording because this is probably as far as they're able to push it in order to be publicly available science. How the hell are they not how are there not more people talking about this? Why am I the guy talking about this? I can't. This is the part that I struggle with, right? And this is why I think people are impressed, because I'm figuring this out, but it's not like the Sabrine Hassenfelders don't get this. I pinged her this paper again earlier today. I'm like, you are a fucking PhD physicist with 80 papers with your name on them. How are you not reading this? How are you not freaked out when you read this? And the answer is because she's not looking at the MH370 videos. She's not looking at them like they're possibly real. Because if she was looking at them like they're possibly real, I think it's just inarguable that this science is legit as it gets. And the acknowledgments, once again, the acknowledgments. We would like to thank the Institute for Advanced Studies at Austin for supporting this work. This work previously originated under Air Force Research Laboratory. We wish to extend our thanks to Frank Mead from the Edwards Air Force Base and members of the Air Staff, which is the Air Force headquarters in the Pentagon, and Paul Murad, Department of Defense. What? What? What the hell? Are you kidding me, chat? How many scientific papers do they thank the Air Force, Edwards Air Force Base, the Pentagon, and the DoD? Not a lot of papers, I don't think, chat. Not a lot of papers. So, especially because we're implicating the government. So, the last thing I want to mention on this is I'll do my friends a favor here on the UFO world. There's some possibility that this is aliens. I can't rule it out. I've upgraded my chance that this is aliens from 1% to 5%. I still think it's 95%. Why? Because we've got scientific papers going back to 2006 that explain the scientific concepts we see here. I think that if this was really aliens, their technology is going to be so far beyond where we're at that we're not going to have scientific papers that are going to be able to explain them. Not to the level of details that we have. Like at this point, we can say that we've got cold fusion going on. We've got lasers that are creating cold fusion as a magnetic monopole inside these plasma orbs. And they're creating a negative energy laser in front of them, which is producing this well that they're following through. And they're doing some kind of sinusoidal pattern around the orbs. It's able to generate an energy field at the Tor -1, as Bob Greenyer would say, to literally produce a negative energy wormhole around the plane, which in my opinion is probably creating like a Casimir type force, but without the need for a plate. And it's probably very thin as well to minimize the amount of energy that's required. So the fact that, yes, there's like, it's complicated, but there's only 3 elements at play here of technology, and that we can explain all of them through science that's publicly available, tells me that this is something that we created. This is our generation of this. This is black projects within the United States government. Now, where does this technology come from? I don't know. The fact that we could figure this out just from watching this one video tells me that if there were aliens that had this technology like 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, if we saw it, we could figure this out. It also tells me that this video right here, 100%, like they wanted to give this back to the engineers. The reason why they're filming this is because they want to give this back to the Eric Davises and the Hal Puthoffs and say, here you go, watch this video, compare it to your scientific paper, and go revise your scientific paper. He even mentions the stuff about the umbra that we would need to have experimental evidence. This is why they're recording this. They're recording this because technically this is also an experiment. Now, I don't think that they're experimenting on the plane, but maybe it's like got multiple purposes. But they want to be able to advance this even further. Like, yeah, you did a great job. You created some wormholes. Now go make me a better wormhole. You know, that's why they're recording that, in my opinion. Pretty sweet, chat. What a good stream we had here tonight, guys. So thank you guys for jumping on. So tomorrow, I think what I'll do is I'll post about the fire event. We found way more evidence that supports the fire event. The only reason why you cover up a fire event is because there was no plane found. So the problem is people go, okay, there was a fire. Great. Where's the plane? It should have crashed somewhere. It's not going to last that long. There should have been a debris field that's pretty close to where the last contact was, but there's no plane. Why is there no plane? Because those videos are what happened to the plane. That's why. So that's the reason why they have to cover up the fire event. Otherwise, they would just tell the truth about it. So if you guys want, check out UPS Airlines Flight 6. I have a feeling that we're going to find out what happened to that plane regarding their lithium-ion battery fire is going to be very similar to what happened with MH370. All of this stuff is connected. The fire event is connected to the cover-up, and the cover-up is connected to the videos. The videos are connected to Star Trek Future for us, guys. Special shout out and thank you to Chaotic Good, who connected Motorola batteries to the Freescale engineers. There may be an element where Motorola wanted to cover this up as well, because they might have legal liability because the batteries took out the plane. I never thought about that. So we're going to approach that. So thank you, Chaotic Good, for looking into that, because she asked, why did nobody take credit for the batteries? because Motorola might be implicated in it. And thank you to Roy D. Herbert, who's in the chat. Also, thank you to Veritable Genius in the chat as well. I appreciate you and some of the input that you put in the chat. Okay, guys, I'm going to play you guys out. Yeah, the flight, UPS Airlines Flight 6, 2010, September 3rd, 2010, is a Boeing 747 from Dubai to Cologne, Germany. There was an in-flight fire related to the lithium-ion batteries on board, caused everybody to die. First fatal air crash for UPS Airlines. This is going to be direct. We're going to need to look into this for the fire event, guys. Also, whoever said I wouldn't last 5 attoseconds or pentoseconds with what's her face, Scarlett Johansson, you're probably correct. Probably true statement. Also, I never said thank you for this super sticker. None yo biz. Thank you for that super sticker. Love you, brother. Thank you. Or ma'am, whoever you are. Appreciate you guys. Okay, guys, I'm going to play you guys out. I had a request for the MMM song. We're going to play you guys out with that. Have a good one. Our next stream will be on Friday. Friday, we're going to talk about free energy. And then next Monday, we're going to talk about the fire event. So have a good one, brothers. Bam, ladies. Peace.
Welcome, stop.
Not the right one, guys. That was not the right one. False alarm.
It's H370 until you do some research. Don't talk to me. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. Your opinion, it means squat to me. It's H370. Not all heroes wear capes. I wear glasses to see. I'm going to find the truth while I sip this martini. The trolls hate seeing me succeed. But guess what? MM